this video we're going to create a game over message, and for this we're going to create a widget blueprint which is part of the user interface system of Unreal Engine. So first of all, let's go to our core folder and then right click, user interface, and select widget blueprint. And I'm just going to call this pp_HUD. And then with enter I can open it. And now there's a new window opening. Drag it into the main window. And as you can see, this is the HUD editor or widget editor. And this center screen contains like a viewport. Over here on the left, there's all kinds of stuff you can drag in. We're mainly going to use the text, so I'll just show you. I will drag it in here, and then I have a text block in about the center of the screen. This thing over here is the lock position, so the text block will have a position on the screen relative to this sun-like thing, and I can drag it around and, for instance, put it in the top right, and now it has a position relative to the top right. Or I can place it exactly in the center, and then the text block will have a position relative to the center of the screen. So I'm going to zoom in a little using my scroll wheel, and then I will make this a game over text. So over here on the left I want to rename this text to game over text, so I can easily identify this later. Over here on the right are the positions and the anchor, and I can also select here to anchor it to the center of the screen. And the position, when I drag it around, you can see it updated the X and Y. You can change the sizes and the alignment. And the alignment is like a percentual value, percentage of the width and height it should align at. And this comes in handy for us right now, because I will update the text now to game over, or all capitalized. And now you can see the alignment is a little bit off, and when I would try to place it in the center, I can either do it manually, or I could just set this to 0 and then set the alignment options to 0.5 for half and 0.5 for another half. Then I set size to content, and now you can see it placed it exactly in the center. And even if I would change the text to something like game over, you suck, it would still be in the center. But I don't want to insult the player, and I'm just gonna stick to game over. So scroll more down, you can open the font, and then I want to change the size to maybe like 40, so it's really visible. Zoom out a little so I can see how it's relative to the screen. Maybe even 60. Well, let's just 80. So really large message. So with this text in place, I now want to use this HUD widget in my game. But when I press play, nothing is going on. So what we need to do is we need to create our own player controller. And for this, I first will show you the game mode settings again. As you can see, we had set the default pawn class to the BP ADM installation, and the player controller is set to a generic player controller. So we want to create our own player controller so we can assign the HUD to the game. And to do this, I'm going to go back to my content browser. Right click, click Create Blueprint class, and the parent class will be the player controller, and I'm going to call this BP Player Controller, so we can easily identify this. Now, I've opened the player controller. This is nothing more than a camera, and usually you could create all kinds of controlling mechanisms in the player controller, but that would only be necessary if you have like a multiplayer game or something where well, all the players get their own controller with their own things, and that was way too complex for now in this game. Let's see, when we go to the begin play event, we want to create widget and drag it over there. Now I can select the BP HUD we have created previously, and this can be a reference to ourselves. And then with this widget we are going to add to viewport, and that's it. This is pretty much everything there is to our player controller. We can close it and go back to our Orbital Strike game mode and find the player controller setting and set it to BP Player Controller. Compile, save, and now when we press play, we have immediately game over. So at least we know our widget is working. Now we just need to find a way to show or hide this based on some condition, and we can do this if we scroll down, go to the behavior and set the visibility. We can set a default value, but we can also bind a function, and we can create a binding for this. So I just did that. Now the function is named getGameOverTextVisibility 0. That's a weird name. Just going to set it to getGameOverTextVisibility, and now I can have a blueprint script that determines whether we should be visible or hidden. So let's test this out if it works first. So I set it to hidden. Now when I press play, there's no game over text. Okay, so I could create an if branch, and when game over is true, I want to make it visible, and I'm going to copy the return node for when game over is false, and I want it to be hidden. So this is next step. Let's compile, save, see if it works. Game over is currently true. Play, yes, game over. Now when I disable this condition, compile and save, play. So no game over text. Now we just need to figure out where this game over state will be based on. And for this I have decided to use the game mode because it's accessible everywhere. and we can open the full blueprint editor. And we can create variables here. So I want to create a variable called isGameOver. And I want to make it public. I want it to be read everywhere. So compile, save. And the default value for now will be true. So I want to hook this up in our blueprint, in our HUD blueprint first, and see if it works. So I'm going to right click here. I need to get the game mode. And then I need to get game over. Of course, this doesn't work because this is a generic game mode. As you can see, it reads game mode base object reference, and we need to have our specific custom game mode. So cast to BP underscore orbital strike game mode. Hook this up over here. And when the cast succeeded, now we have a reference to our BP orbital strike game mode, which contains the variable. And then we can get isGameOver. Hook it up. Compile, save. So let's play. Now, game over. And when I go to our game mode again, I can set the default value to false, compile and save. And go back and play. And now you can see the HUD read the game over value from our game mode. Okay, so now we can think about what conditions do we want for it to be over. And when we think about our game design document, we have specified that when the factories are all dead or the ABM installation is destroyed, the game should be over. So we can determine whether our factory or the ABM installation are all gone. So let's go to our game mode, event graph, and now we can get actors. It is get all actors of class. Sometimes the searching can be a little annoying because you remember something like get actors of class, but then there is this word all in between and you can't find it. So first of all, we want to find the ABM installation, and then we get a list of all ABM installations, and we just want to know the length of the ABM installation list and see if it equals 0. And when it equals 0, so if branch, when it's true, we want to set isGameOver to true. So I hook this up, and the second part will be getting all the factories and seeing if that list is 0. So I can just copy this all over, and instead of getting all actors of the ABM installation, I can find the factory and see whether that is 0. So when we've tracked the path, first of all, we are finding all actors of class ABM installation, getting the length and seeing if it equals 0. And when it's true, there are no ABM installations. We set game over to true. And when it's false, only then we are going to see if there are factories. and when the factories are gone, we set game over to true. So compile, save. Whoops, something went wrong here. Cannot connect pins. It says something about incompatible reference. I guess that's because I copied this and I just need to hook it up again because it's a dynamic thing. So compile again. Now it's gone. And there was something else interesting. It says here, this is a slow operation. Use with caution. Do not use every frame. And we are doing that right now on the tick. So, of course, you do know how to use timers. So I suggest your challenge for now, after we verified whether this script works, your challenge will be to move it into a separate function and use a timer to run the check, say every 300 milliseconds or something, or 200 milliseconds, so 0.2 seconds, and see if you can put it into a timer to save some CPU cycles. So, good luck!